Hey, this is Little Talk with Big Nikki.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Little Talks with Big Nikki. Today, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking from the subject of not being the same person that you were a year ago. So I know y'all are kind of like, Nicole, it's not the end of the year yet. Like, aren't you supposed to wait towards like New Year's to like be talking about, how you're like not the same person you were last year and all this stuff? Yeah, but like also no. So, something happened in my life personally about a year ago, that was way more formative, for me as an individual than a new year, occurring. So, I wanted to talk about how being a year through, looking back on everything and just thinking and reflecting on how like I really am not anywhere close to the same person I was, and I love that. I love who I am now. Not that I didn't love myself before, but now especially I'm like, wow, like I love who I am as a person, and I'm proud of myself, and I've done a lot in a year. There's been a lot of growth and a lot of learning about myself, learning about other people. It was, I think, one of the most, if not the most formative year of my life to date. Granted, I am only 21, but yeah. So I wanted to dive into that today. So we're going to be talking about just, becoming a better version kind of you, and what that might kind of look like and how that might feel. Everyone's journey is different, but I'm just here to, be vulnerable and kind of share with you mine. So yeah, let's get into it. So like I said, about a year ago, something happened in my life personally. Nothing catastrophic, nothing tragic. Like, it literally in the grand scheme of things is like not that big of a dot on the radar. But at the time when you're going through it and you have never been through something like that before, and I say that with a lot of emphasis for a lot of people that maybe don't get that, when you've never been through something even remotely like that before, you don't always know how to handle yourself. You don't always know how you're supposed to feel, if what you're feeling is okay, if you're gonna be okay. There's like a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions that you have, and I'm here to say it is okay, and what you're feeling is valid, and what you're feeling is normal, and you are going to be okay in the end of it. You're going to be better than okay. So when this happened, I dealt with what I had to deal with as best as I knew how at the time. Like I said, never having gone through it before. I was always, up until that point, I was an honest person. I was pretty open booked. But I was expressing myself a lot up until that point through writing, almost like musically. I cannot play an instrument, no. But I have always enjoyed writing. I call them songs. Maybe a lot of people call them poems. Some of them have rhythms, others don't. But I always got a lot out, writing things out, singing. Those were like my, I would say, creative outlets to express myself. Since this time last year, I have done new things that I never thought I would do. One of the biggest being that kind of has like changed my life, and in a lot of aspects actually, was picking up a camera. So I bought my camera like last June, but I wasn't really using it. I think I used it like once for like an event, but I wasn't really learning about like photography. I wasn't really learning about my camera. I wasn't actively like shooting, practicing. I really wasn't doing like any of that. And at this point, I still was thinking, oh, I'm like gonna go down like a path of like PR or like something like that. Like, you know, still my second to last year of school, you know, you're like, I'll figure something out in my major. But it wasn't until after this situation that like a couple months later, I like started taking like photography seriously. And I was going to workshops, and I was going to you know, like these events and these meetups, and I was finally shooting like people. Like I just put myself out there almost in like a way I never did before, where I was like, oh, hey, like if you need pictures taken, like let me know. I still don't know what I'm doing, you know, I'm still like an amateur, you know, that's like okay. But I grew. I didn't even realize how much I had grown until I like stopped and thought 6 months back. And I went, you would have never done that 6 months ago. Never. Like, no way. And I've always been an outgoing person. I've always been extroverted. I've always liked talking to people. So it wasn't like that, but it was just to have the courage and the passion to want to do something and invest time in your creativity and your effort into. That was just something like I never really experienced before. And along with this transformation, any of you who have been following along since the beginning, but any of you who are new listening to this, I started this vlog project, which is now, as most of you know, a vlog and a podcast. But I started this back in January. So that was the first creative outlet I really had. I really felt like I have learned some things. I have an opinion on things. I have thoughts that I want to share. God has been and was then just kind of placing things on my heart that I'm like, I feel like other people can relate to this. And so that project kind of started. I was able to use that as like a creative outlet. And then, like I said, a couple months later, the photography really started to like roll down, which is insane because now, like coming up on the new year, and me also graduating college, it's like I have like another source of potential income. I mean, I do intend on, at least as like a part-time thing, pursuing freelance photography. A year ago, if you would have said that to me, I would have been like, what? Like, there's no way. I can't do that. Like, I don't know anything. Like, all the excuses and the reasons of like why I'm not qualified to do something. In this period too, I hope I'm not jumping around too much. I hope this all makes sense. I'm like trying to go chronologically, but also it doesn't make sense to go chronologically. In this, I would say the first 6 to 8 months, I relied so heavily on God. So heavily. I don't think my faith would be in the position it's in now. Not claiming I'm perfect, not saying I'm always the best Christian. I definitely have my moments and times when I fail and fall short. But I'm saying my personal relationship with God would not be where it is at currently without the past year. There was really a 6-month period where I call it me, myself, and God, because, and I might have talked about this on one of the earlier podcasts, but just to dive like a little more into it, like, I mean, yeah, of course, like I have like friends and family, and you know, I talked to people and I shared my heart with people, and I was starting this vlog project, but there were just certain issues, certain insecurities, certain vulnerabilities that just had to be dealt with in silence, most of the time in the dark, with tears and just prayers, and throwing my hands up and saying, I don't know what to do with this anymore, and I don't want to carry this, and I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to get through. I'm so over feeling like this. I want to get through this. And it really was me, myself, and God, because there's things that to this day I'm not gonna tell probably like another living soul, to be honest with you. And those moments are so sacred and so valuable. And for anyone who's not a Christian, you might like think this is weird, but like that was one of the times in my life where I heard God speak to me the most. And what's really cool, I think, is like I still hear him now, but it was like before a year ago. I think I heard him like a couple times in my life, and I wasn't even 100% sure it was him. But then in this like process, I knew. There's things, and you just know. I had a very specific Bible verse that like fed me a lot of security and assurance in this time. It's Jeremiah. It's in Jeremiah. I believe it's chapter 33. But there's a verse in there that, like, to paraphrase it, it says that, you know, you will be like torn down, but you will be rebuilt by the Lord, and they will be amazed at the prosperity and peace that he brings to you. And he absolutely did that. And I knew when I read it that was a promise that God was making to me, that was what he was going to do in my life, and he 110% did it. But there was like another side of just, it was incredible that I knew myself, learned about myself in such a carefree, almost selfish, like love, that an appreciation that I just had for me as an individual. After this whole experience and growing process, I tell people all the time now, like, I know who I am as a person. I know who I am. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. I'm very decisive. I can make decisions easily. I mean, I always have, but there's really no wavering. Like, I know if I want to go after something or not, and I really feel like I know if it's the right decision, if it's the wrong decision. And I'm just unapologetically me. I think that's the best way to say it. I know my flaws, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and I will admit them to anybody. I know what they are. That's why I always tell people, I'm like, I usually don't need you to tell me what I'm doing wrong or what I did wrong, because I already know. I already know that about myself. It's just this sense of just understanding but acceptance of yourself that I have never had before in my life. And it brings so much clarity and just resolve to like almost every just aspect of your life. In any situation like you might encounter, it just brings so much relief to your soul that like you know who you are and you love that person. It's so freeing, and it's just a sense of freedom, and taking it back to the creativity, like in the outlets that I have now. If you would have told me a year ago that I was going to be hosting a podcast that I figured out on my own, still figuring stuff out. I know that there are improvements that need to be made. Those are in the works, I promise. But that I figured out like how best to record, and we went through trial and error, and things weren't perfect. You're talking to a perfectionist here. I expect nothing less, but things weren't, and they still aren't always perfect. And I'm still learning through trial and error when I make these videos and when I do this audio for the podcast, and the amount of people that having this platform has allowed me to reach, and the amount of people that have reached out to me and said how important what I'm talking about is to them, and like how relatable it's been, and like they can really identify with it, and just the sheer amount of people that I've gotten to meet. And these are now people that I highly respect, highly value. We have deep conversations. We might not talk every day, week, month, but it's like when we do, they just bring me so much life. And I will say too that I've gotten really choosy this past year of who I give my energy to, and I'm starting to get even more choosy of what I give my energy to, because life is short, and you really don't know how short yours in particular may be. And I really just want to fill my life, because there's already enough crap that we all have to deal with, and there are situations that are out of our control. But what I can control is the people in my life and what I'm choosing to do with my time. And so I'm really trying to be strategic with that. I think I've been getting very limited and narrowing down what those things are in the past year. But the people I met, I may have never met had I not picked up the camera, had I not said, screw what anyone's opinion is. If they don't want to hear me talk, or I don't know who's going to listen to this, but I'm just going to say what's on my heart anyway. And maybe just one person can get something from it. Honestly, I think that's the best mentality you can have. And the best place you can mentally be is to be sitting where I'm sitting right now and look back at a year ago and see and understand why and how everything literally came full circle, and see why and understand how this had to happen the way it did. The best place you can be is to say, I'm glad that happened. It sucked. It sucked a lot when I was going through it. I didn't want to go through it. Jesus had to drag me through it. But I'm on the other side, and I can sit here and say, I'm so thankful that everything happened how it did, when it did, the way it did. And it just goes to show that what you always want or what you think is best for you isn't necessarily what's always best for you, or what you really should have, what God needs you to have in your life. There's people I would have never met. There's opportunities that I never would have gotten or been saying yes to if things had not gone the way that they've gone. And I know it's a dangerous game to play the what if, but I think sometimes it's healthy in a situation like this to play the what if game from the perspective of, what if this hadn't happened and I was still in the same spot I was a year ago? What if I was still the same person I was a year ago? What if I didn't take that trying time in my life and grow and learn from it? I think sometimes that's an okay game to play, because then you can really look at how much you've grown as an individual, and where life has taken you since. And I think it's a healthy outlook. I really do. I'm so grateful. So grateful. I honestly can sit here and say, like, I wouldn't have changed a single thing, because even within that period of like healing and figuring myself out, there were other things that came up that most people like don't even know about, and I'm glad that even those things happened. They were like annoying. They came and went, and I was like, God, like, why was that even just like part of all of this? Like, what the heck is going on here? And but I look back now and I'm like, nothing is wasted. Nothing is ever wasted. Even if something doesn't pan out how you think it should, or you wanted it to, it's not wasted. It still was an opportunity, and a lesson learned almost for you to learn and grow. And I know that's really cliche and not everyone believes that, but I believe everything happens for a reason. I believe you go through seasons, and this has been a really, really transformative one. I'm really happy with my life. I don't know if it's because it's going to be like Thanksgiving tomorrow when I'm recording this or not, but the past like 2 days, like, even though I'm stressed with like finishing the semester, like the last week before finals is always crazy. I just have like such like a contentment and like a peace internally that I like can't even explain. And it's just like, I'm like genuinely happy. I'm happy with where like the direction my life is headed. I'm happy like with what I'm doing for like work. I'm happy with the people that I have in my life. I feel like I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed. And a year ago on this day, I was also very happy and very content. But I don't think I knew what I was missing out on. I don't think I knew how much better it could get. And it really does get better. And that might be cliche too. And if you're watching this and you're struggling through something right now, that's probably not what you want to hear. I know that's not what I wanted to hear a couple months ago. But it really does get better. And I don't even want to say that time heals all wounds. I think time passes, yeah. But you have to be strategic in how you're spending that time. You have to use that time to heal. Time can pass, but if you're not slowly going through the process and moving towards some sort of resolution within yourself, some sort of forgiveness, some sort of healing, then that time passing, that is going to be wasted time. And it's not always going to feel like you're where you're supposed to be at. And people will talk to you like you should already be at a certain place when you're not. This is your journey. This is your process. This is what you have to go through and discover and learn for yourself. Don't rush it. And don't let someone tell you that you're not where you're supposed to be, just because maybe when they went through something similar, they were like, oh, well, by this point, I was already this. It's not their journey. And that's what I'm here to say. Like, maybe you're going to have a really transformative 2 years. Mine happened within like the last year, but I'm sure it'll happen again. And that experience will be completely different as well. How I handle things and how I process through things and the length of time that I go through it, I'm sure that'll be completely different. But this is your process and your journey. And I'm just here, like I said, today to share that it is okay, and it is actually really exciting and a really good thing that you aren't the person you were however long ago. You can always look ahead and see how far you still have left to go. or you can choose at the same time to reflect back and look at how far you've come. I think both are important to recognize, but I don't think it's healthy to stay in the past or dwell on the past, but I think it's really healthy to reflect on the past, because that'll show you like where you are now and like where you're headed. And that trajectory can be a really great thing. It can be really freeing and excited, and at some point scary, because there is still a lot of unknowns. But I'm in like the best place all the way around, mentally, emotionally, that I think I have been in a long time, maybe ever in my life. Still things I fall short for, still things I'm dealing with, still things I'm trying to get better at. But I really do love me, and I've seen the why everything had to happen the way it did, and I'm content with that, and I'm at peace with that. So to any of you struggling with something right now, just know like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even though the tunnel seems really long some days. But you will have peace and prosperity given to you, and people will look and say how, and people will look and say, how did you get through that? Why are you so happy when you shouldn't be? Why are you filled with so much joy when you should be depressed? How are you doing it? And everyone's gonna have their different answers. A lot of people cope in different ways, some healthier than others, and mine really is God. And I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say a lot of things. It's okay and it's good to be true to yourself and to change and evolve as a person. That's what life is all about. What you were interested in a year ago, maybe it's okay that those things aren't as important to you now, and you have different dreams and interests and passions and creative outlets. I used to always think, man, if I'm not writing music, then like what am I doing? If I'm not writing lyrics, like what am I even doing? But it's really funny to see that now that I have this as an outlet and my photography as an outlet creatively, I'm not writing as much as I used to. And I miss it a little bit, but at the same time, it's not like I feel like I'm bottling anything up. It's just I've changed as a person, and that's okay. And I just hope everyone has people in their life that they've surrounded themselves with that will accept you as you change, and they will grow and change with you and encourage it and love you through it, because you really do need that support system. So I think that's really all I have to share with you guys today. I thank you so much for listening. I know this one might be a little different than the others. Just really sharing my heart from a very personal level of like, it's good to not be the same person you were a year ago. And it's good to change and evolve and come through hard seasons on top. And feel like you had a victory in the midst of it all. So with that being said, again, thank you so much for watching this or listening to this. If you are, however you're streaming this, I guess I want to say, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we are on iHeartRadio. So many platforms for you to get this content. Share this content if you want with somebody else you think might need it, might want to hear it. Would definitely appreciate that. Make sure you guys follow me on my social media popping up on your screen right now: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Following along my life. I'm most active on Instagram though, so if you're gonna pick one, that's the one to pick. But yeah, big things coming in 2020. I'm excited. We got one more vlog / podcast, I believe, for you guys before the new year, so that'll be coming out 2 weeks. Y'all already know what the deal is. But yeah, I hope that you all have a great December. enjoy this holiday season as much as you can. I know I don't like the snow, but try to make the best out of it as much as you can. And I will see you guys back in 2 weeks. Thank you again so much for listening.